Musky fishing has come a long way in the last few years. By that I mean there are more and more people enjoying the sport, and there are definitely more people putting the fish back in the water. What we're going to do tonight is give you a little taste of what you might need to know to enter what we call the strike zone. And again, we took a little creative liberty on this. So if you don't like it, well, run the other direction. And if you do like it, stop over and let our cameras know. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome to the St. Paul Civic Center, the Minnesota Sportsman Show, and the Strike Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are about to enter a world in which no one has ever returned. If you have a weak heart or poor health, now would be the time to exit the doors at the side or the rear of this room. If you are looking to experience the most exciting and challenging game fish in fresh water, then now would be the time to fasten your seatbelt and prepare yourself to enter a world you may never have experienced. The empire of the mighty Musky. We, the people at Simply Fishing, are not responsible for any actions or conditions that may result from your entering what is known as the Strike Zone.
How about a round of applause for that kind of fishing, huh? Come on, let's hear it for the muskie. It's exciting to bring musky fishing into the hearts and the minds of young people and older people alike throughout the Midwest. It's because the muskie is truly our fish. It's our game fish right here in our backyard. Nothing else is more superior than this particular fish. However, if we're going to fish this fish, there's a few things that we're going to have to do, know, and understand. And I'm not talking necessarily about just catching a fish. I'm talking about things you need to do as people, sportsmen, and anglers alike. You know, there are things that you do out there that may or may not be good. Let's talk about Simply Fishing's Code of Ethics just for a moment. When you leave that resource, the footprint you leave will be remembered long after you're gone. So you want to make sure that you practice sound ethics. Demonstrate good sportsmanship. Remember, your stewardship out there is well recognized when you properly handle, catch, and release this super fish. It's important if our future generations are going to do it. Let's take a look at the limited resources. Don't take limited resources for granted. Ladies and gentlemen, young kids and gals alike, this fish is the most precious natural resource we have, without question. Support environmentally conscious manufacturers. In this case, we're talking about everybody, from the person pumping fuel into your vehicle to the people putting food on your plate at the facility you might be staying at. It's important to know that they have it in mind. Practice C.P.R. Catch, photo, and release. We copyrighted this slogan in 1987, and we're proud to say we're part of what's going on today. Photos go a long way, and the fish is still there to recapture in the future. Get others hooked on fishing. I'm not talking about just your friend, but get the young people involved in the sport. Don't go out there and feed them sunfish all the time. Give them something to chase. Give them the muskie. Luck. Well, that's something which happens by chance, according to Webster, and a lot of us out there don't have a true understanding about what luck is and how it plays into your fishing or your day on the water. Simply Fishing, however, well, would look at luck as a famous musky town in western Wisconsin, wouldn't you? Who's been there? Who's been to Luck? Who's going back to Luck? Nobody. That's a shame. However, luck as defined by Simply Fishing is something totally different. I saw a celebrity on TV this past weekend talking about how there really was no luck in fishing, and indeed, he was wrong, because luck plays a big part of what we're going to achieve and accomplish out on the water. Let's take a look at the first letter, locate, L in luck. If you can locate fish, you're going to better have a chance of succeeding at what you're doing. These fish are very territorial and sometimes difficult to locate. Understand the resource. Pay attention to what's out there. Understand the ecosystems, the prey-predator relationships, and how they play into the game of luck when it comes to fishing. Let's concentrate our efforts. It's important that you're out there and you're paying attention and concentrating. You could have things happening below your lure that you would never imagine. And some of these fish are so large that you don't want to imagine. Let's use all of this, and what do we've got? We've got a base for knowledge. The better understanding you have and more knowledge you have, the more likely you are to unlock that mystery more often when you're on the water. And that's what we really want to do. And in that form, I would consider myself to be what? Yes, very lucky. How about it? Who's for lucky? Well, we got a couple, you bet. The next time somebody says that luck doesn't play a game or you're not lucky, just tell them Simply Fishing said they're wrong. Know your ESOCID family. This is important in our waters around here where we have a variety of fish that we have to pay attention to. Let's start off with the clear muskie, we call it. Very light in detail, bronze-colored back, greenish sides, goes to a white belly. Sharp tail fins on it, generally found in the Great Lakes area, and has a notorious reputation for being very, very large. Let's look at the fish most commonly found native to Minnesota. Minnesota are spotted muskie. You can tell this fish very rapidly by the dark markings on a light background. Again, the sharp pointed tails found in the Mississippi drainage system does not have a reputation for the 60-pound mark. Let's take a look at the barred muskie, found throughout Ontario, western Wisconsin, and throughout the east. This is the fish, however, that has the potential, if left in the water, to reach the 60-pound mark. When we take these fish, as we do, in the spring and cross them with a northern pike, we get God's creation itself, the hybrid, probably the most beautiful ESOCID fish there is in fresh water. By all means, Obviously, the broken bars on the fish designates as a hybrid, and the rounded tail fin also shows it. The close cousin, let's look at that tail. The same thing we saw on the hybrid muskie, rounded tail fin. Here again, being a cousin, we see a light marking on a dark background as opposed to the dark on light, which all of the muskies have. It's important for you to know that, especially here in the metro. Let's learn to identify them by other factors. On the muskellunge, the upper half of the cheek and operculum are covered by scales, where on the other hand, the northern pike, the entire cheek and upper half of the operculum are covered by scales. When we talk about that cross, that hybrid fish, well, we're looking at 2/3 or more of the cheek and the operculum are covered by scales. The reason we're going into this in such depth is because when you're on the water and you have special regulations that pertain to muskies, you don't want to be taking accidentally a fish that shouldn't be taken. If you have it in possession, believe me, you're going to be violating a law, and you don't want to be doing that. Let's take a look at the last and the final way to tell the difference between the muskellunge and the northern pike. If we turn the fish upside down, and we do this very carefully, I might add, to take a look at this, you'll note that the muskellunge has between 6 and 9 pores on each of the lower jaw sides. The northern pike, on the other hand, which is a lot more common than the muskie, has 5 or less pores on each side. The hybrids, on the other hand, that cross between the northern pike and the muskie, between 5 and 8 pores on each side. Use this for the last conclusive way to tell the difference. Let's look at the conditions that we're going to look at the northern pike and the muskie to be spawning in. We're going to look at similarities and differences as we go through this. The northern pikes, the temperature range is going to be between 40 and 45 degrees. Their locations they will seek will be marshy backwater areas, and their habits are to spawn in or next to current areas. The muskie, on the other hand, utilizes 49 to 59 degree water, has open mid-sized bays in mind, and is at very best a random spawner over open waters. Folks, we have radio telemetry devices in fish right now. We're trying to better understand what's going on with the female muskie. There is so little that's truly known about the characteristics of a spawning muskie that we're still in the dark. I want you to pay attention here now as I show you probably my most favorite muskie friend, an absolutely gorgeous 4.5-inch muskie shot in the wild at Eagle Lake, Ontario, Osborne Bay. Even at this young age, this supreme predator has all it takes to turn a muskie angler crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this fish. Picture this fish at 48 to 50 inches long being able to accelerate to 30 miles an hour in the length of its body. That is a supreme predator. And when you're on the water with these kind of fish, you can't hardly but respect these fish, especially when they turn your day upside down. Let's join in now as Steve Voigt and I challenge the muskies on Sabaskong Bay, Lake of the Woods.
Big fish stop. Sure.
I bet you thought I was going to get that one, did you? One for the muskie. Let's go. A round of applause. You can't always beat this fish. It's important to know, though, that the fish is the challenge, and the challenge is what brings you back to the water. It's not how many you catch, it's how much fun you have doing it. Let's take a look at the prime feeding locations, and now we're going to start to differentiate between these two species in a very broad sense. The northern pike in the early spring seeks out small bays with dark bottoms and northern exposures. They're looking for incoming creeks attracting food and delivering warmer water to the system. The muskie, on the other hand, is not very active and is generally, throughout its natural range, out of season. After the spawning, the fish will venture into the lake's mid-range until recovery is complete. Again, I can't caution you enough. We only speculate what the muskie is doing. She seems to be very, very absent in those shallow waters. If you've ever gone on your favorite muskie lake and you can't find them in a post-spawn situation, it's because that fish is trying to recover. Let's take a look at the prime feeding locations in late spring for the northern pike and the muskellunge. On the northern pike side, we're looking at a water temp between 50 and 65 degrees. Look for the pike to venture into the mouths of the bays in search of areas with access to deeper, cooler water. Now we start to differentiate between these fish. Notice the pike seeking cold water. The muskie, on the other hand, in the late spring, this is the start time in the muskie's mid-range, her natural range. During this period, she will start seeking her normal food in the warmer water areas. Believe you me, this is when the old fish is starting to put on the Kickstarter, and you should be getting ready for it. That northern pike is starting to go to the deep water, the muskie's coming shallow, so you can take advantage of her presence. Prime feeding locations in the summertime for the northern pike. This is mid-peak summer now we're talking here. This is for the most part a season to practice sound ethics. During this period in most of the U.S. and in southern Canada, the pike will seek refuge in very deep cold waters of the lake. In cases near or over 30 feet deep, they should be left alone. That's if you respect the fishery. At the end of this seminar, I'd be more than happy to describe what happens to the fish due to lactic acidosis and lactic poisoning from taking these fish out of a complete different barometric pressure zone. And we can discuss this without any problems. Today we've learned that you don't want to seek these fish out of any water over 25 feet, and that's important for you to know. In the years past, we did it without knowing. Prime feeding locations on the muskie, on the other hand, well, this fish is very, very catchable. In the summertime, this is the period when the muskrat, the mink, the baby beaver, the snake, and the baitfish swim at their own risk. And if you don't think I'm right, just throw your poodle off the end of the dock. You'll see what I mean. When the water temps are at the midsummer peak, so are the mighty muskie, and the shallow, the mid-depth predator can deliver a thrill unmatched by anything in fresh water. By mid-depth, folks, we're talking 20 feet or less. Fact is, most of the fish we boated over the 40-pound mark, they haven't been in 20 feet, they haven't been in 15 feet, they haven't even been in 10 feet. These fish are in 3-4 foot of water, and we catch a lot of them. A round of applause here very shortly for Mr. Kurt Fitton and his 57.5-inch release.
You get all the way down that edge over there, Kurt. You got that one.
Notice the vegetation on the surface?
Fish on it, guy.
That's because this area that we're fishing right now is basically about 3 feet deep.
You got a big fish. Let it go wherever it needs to go.
I want you to pay real close attention to how excited Mr. Fenton gets. We call him the Iceman for short.
You got a big fish here.
She's just staying down. I didn't even got to look at her really.
I did when she ate it.
Did ya? Oh yeah, she's big. Nice fish.
Now I ask you, would you be that calm with a world record on?
Nice fish. It's just barely hooked, Bobby.
Barely hooked?
The back treble.
I think he's getting excited.
She's right underneath the boat now, Bobby.
Just hang tight to her.
Yeah, I got a loose drag on her.
We over 50?
Oh yeah, I think she's over 50. Just barely hooked.
Yeah, a little bit more
Don't hit
excitement.
that motor, baby.
Come on, you got a big fish here.
Just a back treble, barely.
You can lift your
Check
head
that.
out.
Okay, so. Oh, no, wait, Bobby. Can you get her?
54 inches, son. How about a round of applause for Kurt, 57.5 inch. My hat goes off to this gentleman and any other person or people out there that are putting this quality of fish back in their resources. This is a genetic fish that we need to replace if our kids' kids are going to enjoy what we're seeing right here and today. By the way, I misjudged the size of this fish. I'm apologizing. I called it 54 inches when it came in the net. Even I was amazed when we measured the fish at 57.5 inches. Notice how Kurt's cutting the line right there? You'll see that a lot. It's very important to cut the line, free that rod and reel, and get it out of the way.
There's so much power there. Unbelievable. big.
Kurt's graphite is on display in our booth, and you're more than welcome to come over and take a look at it. You'll note my hands across the shoulders of that fish measure 7.5 inches across the head.
Okay, I'm gonna lift her
How
up.
many are looking for that kind of fish?
Okay.
Well, we're here to tell you they swim. After we had this fish in the boat, Kurt and I witnessed even a larger fish.
Yep, only one shot of you holding her up.
Put her back. Put her back.
By the way, Kurt will be around for autographs after we're done here. Look at the size of that head. Tell me that that thing can't eat a muskrat or a baby beaver or a duck for that matter.
7.5. Okay. Is that your biggest fish?
Biggest fish I've ever seen.
And that sums it up right there. It's the biggest fish he's ever seen. Prime feeding locations for the muskie and the northern pike in the fall period. All those differences we've been describing, well, now we see them start to gel together. The melting pot starts right here. As the summer peak comes to an end and the water temps start to fall into the low 50s and on into the 40s, you can expect that both the pike and the muskie will venture into shallower water every day in search of forage. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is big fish time without any question. This is the time that you should be challenging those waters at your favorite resort. This is the time when the water skiers are gone, nobody there but you and the duck hunter and big fish. And they can be caught. They're not being pressured by everyday traffic. The fish come out and they are on the feed without question. We catch up now with Dan Notke from Chicago, Illinois, as he and I challenge a late fall bite on Lake of the Woods out of Ash Rapids. You note that we have a calm area on the back side of an island. We have a little bit of wind and we have bright sunny conditions. All of these elements will give you a conducive bite if you're paying attention. The water temps came up about 2 degrees. That warmer water was being funneled behind that island and that big fish was there. Let's look in now as Dan Notke and I challenge the Ash Rapids muskie. Nice fish.
Nice fish, Bob.
We have 40 pounds. Get that net. Anyway. Anybody want to go do this? We're taking names at the end of the seminar. If you guys want to go with us fishing next year, you just let us know. We'll try to make it a possible trip. That fish was kind of a small one, only went 52 inches. By the way, this fish became the famous B-52 muskie. We had a lot of fun with this fish. I was on this fish early in the trip, and a friend of ours, Bill Nyson, came in and said he had a 52-incher and destroyed my ego, but it caught up to him. The muskie gods got him. Let's look at the equipment recommendations for muskie in big fish waters. In the big fish waters, we suggest St. Croix Premier Graphite rods in 6 or 6.9 heavy actions. If you're in the small fish waters, where you generally aren't looking at 40 pounds, 6, 6, 7, and 7.5 foot medium heavies will do the job. The reason we use that equipment is because this fish can deliver excitement and power like nothing else at the boat side. We don't want to overstress the fish when we catch it. We simply want to get the fish to the boat as rapidly as possible, release the fish without inducing lactic acid poisoning. The better often, the more often we can do this, the better chance we have of returning to catch that fish again. That is a 6-foot Premier Graphite rod in my hand, and it is taking some brutal beating right here. Again, this isn't a real big fish. It's about 48, 49 inches. How many times have you been on the water and you've heard your best friend come in and say, geez, I had this thing beat right up until the boat, and then, whoa, it just made that last move. Well, if you have the right equipment, when this right here takes place, you still will be able to boat this fish. the famous Musky corkscrew. I think they are definitely well diggers at times. Equipment recommendations for your rods and reels. Your reels should be quality bait casters without question. Look for large line capacities and quality drag systems and smooth operation. Spinning reels are used primarily for jigging and lighter applications and generally with monofilament lines. Our lines are braided Berkeley Dacron in 30 and 36 and now the new Ultramax. We use 17 to 30 pound mono when necessary. We use an 024 wire with number 6 crosslock snaps and number 3 ball bearing swivels on our leaders. Every leader has got a ball bearing. And folks, you don't think Jaws doesn't exist? Look at this. What you're looking at there is the after fact of about a 50-pound muskie. That bite is over 10 inches wide. She hit this 36-inch muskie while I was bringing it to the boat. How many want to go swimming there? I'll go fishing there, huh? We recommend that your camera be at least water resistant, if not waterproof. To practice C.P.R, catch, photo, and release, we would like to say that the bugs aren't a problem, but they are. So use Ultrathon by 3M for long-lasting protection. And you need a sunblock for those long days out there. Remember, you can spend 15 hours on the water with no problem.
Now is the time to fasten your seatbelts. You're in the outer limits of the strike zone.
I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine, a 50-pound class muskie on the Winnipeg River. As you can see, it wasn't a real good friend. I told you they'd drive you nuts, didn't I? How many want to go do that? The lure you're witnessing right now is a giant jackpot, a lure I invented a couple of years ago and introduced to the market, and by far the most productive surface lure I've had in cold waters. This fish doesn't miss the mark. How many want to go further into the strike zone? There's some important things you need to know, and that's the zone in which you need to get the lure. Let's omit the blind zone for now. Let's look at the monocular zone, the binocular zone, and the strike zone. The binocular zone and the strike zone are the two objects in which you have to pay attention to. 36 to 48 inches in front of that fish's nose is the strike zone. Is this lure, ladies and gentlemen, in the strike zone? You tell me. My wife sees that, she says, surf's up. That, by the way, is a lure we made famous, the Awaker. I created it in 1986. With all conditions being exactly equal, the fish can see or utilize available light 5 times better than man. If I had a dime, no, a nickel, for every time somebody asked me how far a fish can see an object, I'd be a rich man, and so would you, I'm sure. So let's examine exactly what they can see. In the very clear waters, let's say we're looking at Leech Lake or Cass Lake or, who knows, one of the clearest waters you can think of. If I can see or you can see, the angler can see 10 to 15 feet, that fish can see between 40 and 70 feet. The fish has 4 to 5 times the sight range of man in this element. If it's in a stained water condition, let's say something like right here in the town, Bald Eagle, a little darker water, and you can see 2 to 4 feet, then that fish can see 10 to 24 feet. This fish has 5 to 6 times the sight range in that water. Think about this the next time you go on the water and you're wearing a bright yellow rain gear or a fluorescent orange coat or even a fluorescent orange hat. They can see you. In muddy waters, dirty, dark waters like probably Wabigoon up in Dryden, Ontario, and you can only see 6 to 10 inches, which is the case there, that fish can still utilize the light to visualize an object 3 to 6 feet. Again, 5 to 6 times the range of man. Those bright colored lures we throw in that water, well, there's a reason for it. A huge antenna on the side of the fish, and I say antenna because think of a satellite dish, is something we call the lateral line. The lateral line is an object that the fish uses to perceive sound in the water. It can hone in on its prey that way, or it can elude man because of the noise you'll be making in your boat. Now we're pointing out the lateral line not only because of its sensitivity to sound, but because of its sensitivity to the creature. It creates, or it has, an organic ferrous compound within this. This organic ferrous compound allows the fish to right itself and allows the fish to return to its home spawning grounds. In other words, to complete the cycle and reproduce another genetic superfish. So when you have one of these superfish, northern pike, musky, or anything with a lateral line in the boat, make sure that you do not damage the lateral line on the side of the fish. It's critical that that fish have that intact. Let's take a look now as Dan Notke and I challenge the fish on a break, and as we're going through this, I'm going to discuss a few of the lures that we generally use during out the season. Here we have a high-fin crankbait. We use this lure because of the adjustable aluminum bill. The very first thing we do with this lure when we take it out of the package, however, is take off the 4/0 hooks and do what? Go to a bigger hook. We put 5/0s on here, debarb them, and you're pretty much ready to go to town. Another lure that's become more and more popular with us in the last couple of years is a lure made by Fred Arbogast and Company called the Snooker. This lure pulls about like a 9/9, if you know what I mean. About 45 minutes of throwing this thing and you're going to have sore shoulders, but you can pull up some big fish.
Okay, I just want to ease it, okay?
This lure comes with the appropriate hooks and a metal bill.
Use it again.
A Swim Whiz, which was basically designed for trolling out east, has been adapted to the Midwest for a casting lure and works quite well. Again, this lure comes from the company with 4/0 hooks on it. Take the 4/0s off, put 5/0s on. Don't be afraid to drill and put rattles in this, reseal it, and go to work. Very, very productive lure. The lure that I throw a lot, and in fact a lot of musky fishermen do, is a lure called a Grandma's Crankbait. This lure again comes with 4/0 hooks, changed to 5/0s, and a good trick that a friend of mine, Bill Nyson, does is paint that lure bill orange or red. Remember, a fish has got gills. When they flare those gills to escape, they're red or orange. Believe it or not, it will make a difference in you catching fish. Something you don't see us throw a lot of on Simply Fishing is called hair, spinnerbaits and bucktails alike. The reason for that is because we have a very expensive lens on a camera. My cameraman's as big as I am. If I keep wetting that lens, he's going to throw me in. However, I do sneak a cast in. This is an M&G flashback bucktail. Noted bucktail by the inline construction. It has a flame blade on it. and is basically notoriously known for its tinsel in the tail of the lure itself. Highly productive lure. On the other hand, a lure that I like to throw an awful lot of is George Wall's Eagle Tail. It has a high amount of density, real bulky hair construction, and offset shank. It also comes with single hooks. I like to remove the single hooks and go to a treble and debarb it. I have a better hookup, I feel, with that combination. A lure that's become popular is these oversized spinnerbaits in both singles and in tandems. For those of you who want to slow roll these spinnerbaits down some of these edges 12, 13, 14 feet deep, if you feel necessary, you can do it with that kind of lure right there. Now this, like I say, this variation comes in both single and tandem. The one coming back to my hand right there is a tandem spinnerbait. And yes, you're going to get a chance to see that fish one more time before we're done here. No muskie or pike arsenal would be correct or would be complete without a jerkbait. Without question, one of the leaders in the forefront of muskie fishing, the suic. The suic has been around for a long time and has caught tons of fish. This lure comes appropriate with the right size of hooks and is basically ready to go. Make sure that when you buy your suic that the eye in the front of the lure is centered. You'll get better performance that way. You bend the tail down to get the lure to dive. This is a diving jerkbait. When it comes back to the boat, it will dive. It'll seek down and come back up, dive again and come back up, basically in a straight line. Great for those vegetated areas where you have pockets. Rich Tuomi, our general manager and one of the owners of Simply Fishing, his favorite jerkbait is a bobby bait. He has caught a lot of fish, as have others. The thing I recommend with the bobby bait is the minute you take it out of the box, again, change the hooks, but beat down that lower front bill on that thing and make it mushy and flat. So when it comes to the surface and you pop it back down, it grabs a lot of air and gurgles. That's his trick for catching muskies on a bobby bait. We told you that the swim was an exciting crankbait. Well, it's also a very exciting jerkbait. We don't use this lure in the same fashion we use our regular jerkbaits. We more roll this lure through the water. It has a very wide wobble, creates a lot of its own action, and will blow vegetation off if it clings to the hooks. Great for those vegetated areas where you need to work kind of a loud, light, wide-swinging jerkbait. And as Kurt Fenton will testify to you folks, this is the lure that he caught his world record release fish on. This fish, this lure, a 9-inch reef hog with a custom paint job by Simply Fishing is what did it. We use these multiple colors on probably one of the most famous jerkbaits because of the contrast that we want to create. This lure comes prepared to cast. Make sure that the groove in the front is straight when you buy the lure. It's important if you want an even running, consistent running lure. A lure you're going to be seeing in the future is a lure we're coming out with called the Top Catch. We've had phenomenal success with this lure in the last year. We've caught a lot of big fish and seen a lot of big fish on it. We have high hopes for what this lure will do. It is front-end loaded. It is a diving, swinging jerkbait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Throws like a bullet and is very easy to work back to the boat, which we find important for those long days on the water. Who wants to burn their jerkbaits? Nobody. I like that. And no fishing muskies would be complete without topwater. Ladies and gentlemen, my former world record release, 56 inches on the Awaker.
There you go, Bob. Big fish, Bobby. Yeah. Real big fish. That's a monster.
Yeah. Watch as the vegetation gets drawn by the boat. This fish is pulling an 18-foot bass boat.
Take your time, Bobby. I'm going to get everything out of the way. You want me on the motor at all?
Nope. You hear that guy fidgeting around on the back of the boat? Well, he's got a higher IQ than I can ever imagine, and he can't get that Beckman net open. That's Dr. John Schneider, a biogenetic engineer. This is the Awaker. It is a lure with a 360-degree rotating tail. This lure does come with the appropriate hooks. However, there's one drawback to the Awaker, other than it catches huge fish. It is that it's mechanically intense. So if you get big fish on it, you're going to have to retune the lure occasionally to make the lure run properly.
Wow, that is the biggest fish I've seen. Here we go.
How about a hand for John getting it in the net? 56 inches. Yeah, there you go. That was definitely a highlight of my career right there, until Kurt blew my bubble, but that's okay. We could not go surface fishing today without taking the giant jackpot, the most productive lure I've ever thrown in water temperatures in the 60-degree range. My brother Mike proves here that the giant jackpot does work.
Stay with her. Stay with her, big guy.
Giant jackpot is mechanically simple. It does take no tuning. All you have to do is throw the lure in the water. In other words, it catches fish. 9 inches long, 2 sets of treble hooks, comes with 5/0. It is a weighted lure, so be cautious when you buy it. If it doesn't have my name on it, it's probably not the real thing.
Oh, I think she got me in a stump.
Hang tight, we'll go over there.
She might not even be here no more.
How many have had that empty feeling when you just don't know if you still have it or not, huh?
Nice fish.
Well, she's corkscrewing down there. You got her good. See the vegetation that's coming up on that line right there? Over the last year, we have developed one pattern that is without any question productive. Throw the giant jackpot over submerged vegetation, and you will catch muskie.
All right. Mike.
By the way, that's Mike's biggest fish, 48-incher. Good hand, a round of applause for Mike and his muskie. Again, we can't stress enough how important it is to have the proper equipment, from the rod and reel right down, like I say, to the insect repellent that you're using on the water. But know how to use that equipment, how to handle the fish is even more important. If there's anything you need to know, or we would like you to learn from this presentation, it's that the fish is the most precious thing out there. Bar everything else, the fish's safety is our #1 concern. Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to see a 40-pound, 53.5-inch fish decide to go airborne, and yes, we do have the right equipment.
Whoa!
This fish is on a reef hog, and it is barbless.
Ready.
Had to be a while. The guy in the back of the boat with me, Vince Segafredo from Chicago, Illinois, and he's about to have his hands full. Vince is 6'6", 260 pounds or thereabouts, and he thinks he's going to win.
Okay, down for it. Go ahead. He's going in it. Oh, no, he isn't.
Now, does that have a mind of its own?
Yep, saw it coming. That's big. Okay, you're going to need to get up here. No, never mind. Yeah, I'm going to lead her, okay? We got a
6-foot rod, 30-pound braided Dacron, a good drag system, and you can them to the net. You don't have to make them mad, just boat them. You know what we're going to do here? Hold still. We are not going to instantaneously pick this fish up, although all our tools are ready. I lay my rod down and I will help him lift this fish into the boat. It's important when you have fish this large to leave it in the water until you're prepared. We are prepared. All of our tools are ready. We two-hand grab the net, in it comes, and we now have control of the situation. The fish, for all rights, is ours to catch and release as we see fit. Above in the right-hand corner there, you see the tools that we find necessary to carry. We've got an oversized mouse spreader, a Sure Shop hook sharpener, and a pair of multiplying Sears pliers, as well as the Berkeley stainless steel pliers, which I'm happy to announce may be in the market again very soon. They are right now unobtainable. The best fishing pliers I've ever used. Every now and then something comes along that really makes a difference in your ability to succeed. This is not a commercial for bottom line or side finding technology. What it is a piece of information that will enforce your knowledge bank. This technology that's being demonstrated right here, the ability to see to the side, is very keen. Fishing with Randy Mead out of Chicago, Illinois, he and I shot a muskie show where we boated 5 muskies out of 1 weed bed. When I say out of the weed bed, I mean out of the weed bed. We're talking 20 yards out of the weed bed. We searched this area. We didn't find the fish. I knew they were there. I turned my boat accidentally with my side finder on. I marked 2 fish. We immediately proceeded to fish those fish, catching 1. We returned again and caught another and another. 5 fish later, we were convinced that the bottom line side finding technology was ultimately going to be a friend in our boat. With the Buddy 2 and the Buddy 1, this is the most cost-effective tool you can use on the boat. I told you that you would see this fish one more time. ooh and ah if you want. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you a fish, the largest fish I've ever had on hook and line. Could very possibly be a 60-inch fish. Sit back and enjoy my absolute demoralization as this fish shows me who's boss.
Right on this. Big fish. Big fish. I only got one hook in it.
I have nothing to say.
I got here as quick as I could, too. You never got close to me.
That was a big fish.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Strike Zone has been brought to you on behalf of the following sponsors. Astro Pro Crash Boats. Ride with the winners from Brunswick Marine. Berkeley Power Boats. Fish bite and won't let go. Bottom Line Fish Finders. See what you've been missing. Epson Computer Products. When you got an Epson, you've got a lot of company. Motor Guide. The choice of serious fishermen. Pose Lures. Maker of the Awaker and Giant Jackpot. St. Croix Rod. Fish with an American legend. Ultratharn Insect Repellent for ultra-long, effective protection. Please practice C.P.R. Catch, photo, and release. The future of fishing depends on it. You've been watching Bob Mehsikomer's Simply Fishing.